There's a young man standing outside a closed bakery window. It's early morning, before dawn. He hasn't eaten in 2 days. Not because he's on some fasting protocol. Not because he's experimenting with discipline or grit, but because he's broke. And he's been broke a long time. He sees people walking by in tailored suits, holding lats. He watches their clean hands wave down cabs, their voices full of power, making deals over the phone. He looks down at his own hands, collused, dirty, empty. And in that moment, he asks the question too many of us whisper in silence. Every single one of us, at some point, has stood in front of a mirror, stared into our own eyes, and said, I want more. More money, more time, more freedom, more recognition. The aching hunger for a better life is a human constant. But what separates the few who achieve it from the masses who never do isn't luck, intelligence, or even opportunity. It's identity. You do not attract what you want. That is one of the greatest lies sold by popular culture. You attract what you are. The problem is, most people try to skip that hard truth. They want to skip the gym and lift the weight. They want to skip the study and pass the test. They want to skip the work and receive the reward. But the universe doesn't negotiate with wishful thinking. It responds to embodiment. Imagine walking into a gym, sitting down at the bench press, and expecting to lift 300 pounds just because you're motivated or inspired. You'd be crushed. Not because you're weak as a person, but because your body hasn't been conditioned to carry that load. The same principle applies to money. You don't become wealthy because you're inspired. You become wealthy because your identity has evolved into one that can carry the weight of wealth. And that identity is not born from dreaming. It's born from doing. Every rep under pressure, every early morning, every rejection, every dollar saved when you wanted to spend, every moment you chose growth over comfort, that's identity being forged in the fire of reality. The truth is, people don't lack money. They lack structure. They lack emotional fortitude. They lack the container that wealth demands. Money is an amplifier. It multiplies the person you already are. If you're reckless, you'll be recklessly rich until you lose it all. If you're anxious, you'll be an anxious millionaire, and it will paralyze you. If you're deeply insecure, money will not fix you. It will expose you. So the work is not to chase the cash. The work is to evolve into the kind of person who is capable of holding it without being destroyed by it. Ask yourself this: can you handle the weight of what you're asking for? Not just physically, not just in your schedule, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually. Because if you want $10,000 and you mishandle the 10 you already have, you're not ready. If you want to manage people but can't manage your own reactions, you're not ready. If you want opportunity but you're afraid to fail, you're not ready. And life, in its ruthless wisdom, will keep withholding that next level until you become the next version of you that can live there. Money doesn't change your life, you do. And until your internal wiring shifts, all the abundance in the world will slip through your fingers, because the outer world reflects the inner world. And money, just like strength, just like love, just like peace, is not an event. It is a byproduct of alignment. Alignment between your values, your actions, your energy, and your focus. This is why people win the lottery and lose it all. This is why people get a big break and sabotage it. Because the foundation inside of them is not stable enough to hold what they've received. So it collapses. But when you become the kind of person who lives in excellence, who executes with discipline, who invests with wisdom, who listens with humility, then you don't just attract wealth, you sustain it. Identity is not something you declare. It is something you prove to yourself every single day, not in the loud moments, but in the small, silent ones, when no one's watching, when you choose to work instead of scroll, when you wake up early because your future demands it, when you say no to temporary pleasure because permanent legacy is your mission. That's when identity forms. That's when you stop hoping to get rich and start becoming the type of person wealth naturally flows toward. You can't attract excellence if you're inconsistent. You can't hold abundance if you're undisciplined. You can't become money if you're still emotionally tied to scarcity and fear. So the real question becomes, who are you when nothing's working? Who are you when you're broke, tired, unheard, unseen? That's when your identity gets tested. That's when the transformation happens. I've seen people rise from nothing not because they had a plan, but because they had a standard for how they speak, a standard for how they show up, a standard for how they spend a single dollar. They were rich internally before they ever touched their first major check. And that internal richness created a gravitational pull that changed everything around them. Let me tell you a story. There was a man who grew up poor, really poor. He had a dream of becoming wealthy, but nothing changed for years until he shifted one thing. He started living as if he already was the kind of person who could handle wealth. He got up early. He read obsessively. He managed his money down to the last penny. He stopped wasting time, stopped gossiping, stopped seeking validation. He became an executor, not a dreamer. And slowly, over time, opportunities found him. Partnerships found him. Money found him. Not because he was lucky, but because he had become the magnet. He didn't attract what he wanted. He attracted what he became. So today, if you're frustrated, if you feel behind, if you're wondering when your turn will come, I want you to stop asking for more. I want you to start building yourself into the kind of person who can create more. Every day, with discipline, with humility, with an obsessive focus on your evolution. Your habits shape your identity. Your identity shapes your reality, and your reality is just the mirror of who you've become. So change you, and the world around you will change to match it. You are a magnet, but not for what you crave, for what you can carry. Become the person. Then you'll attract the power. That is the real path. Let's dismantle a cultural myth that's quietly destroying millions of lives, the belief that money itself is the ultimate goal. That if you just had a certain number in your bank account, everything would finally fall into place. Peace, freedom, happiness, security. People spend their entire lives sprinting after a number, after a status, after a feeling they believe only money can buy. And when they finally get it, if they get it, they're stunned to discover how empty the arrival actually feels. Because money was never the goal. It was never supposed to be. Money is a byproduct, a side effect, a shadow, the natural consequence of creating something of value in the world. It doesn't lead, it follows. You see, the people who end up wealthy, not just rich for a moment, but wealthy in a way that lasts, multiplies, and impacts generations. They weren't chasing money. They were chasing mastery. They were obsessed with solving problems. They were consumed by a purpose so compelling that money became a necessary tool in their mission, not the finish line. If you chase money for its own sake, you'll make fast decisions. You'll go after what's trending instead of what's needed. You'll cut corners. You'll trade long-term impact for short-term gain. And you'll wake up in 5 years not just burned out, but deeply disillusioned. Because the path of chasing money without meaning is paved in exhaustion, anxiety, and a quiet kind of spiritual poverty. But if you chase value, if you ask yourself daily, how can I serve more deeply? How can I create more meaning? How can I solve a bigger problem better than anyone else? Then money becomes inevitable, not accidental, not forced. Inevitable. Let me give you a real example. There's a man who wakes up at 40:30 every single morning. He's not rich yet, but he's becoming something money can't ignore. He's not trying to create the next viral app or flip a quick profit. He's mastering a craft. He's studying human behavior. He's solving a very specific pain point that he experienced growing up. He knows his audience. He listens obsessively. He iterates daily. And while his peers chase shiny things, he's building value quietly, ruthlessly, relentlessly. And I'll bet you this, in 5 years, those chasing trends will still be chasing. But he will be hunted by money. Because when you become valuable, the market moves to meet you. Money moves where value flows. But what is value really? Value is solving pain. Value is making something easier, faster, deeper, better. Value is the bridge between someone's suffering and their solution. And if you want money, you don't need to beg for it. You need to become a bridge builder, a problem solver, a healer, a leader. This is not motivational fluff. This is economic law. Every dollar is a certificate of appreciation. It says, thank you for solving this problem for me. That's all money is. Proof that you showed up in someone's life and made it better in a way they were willing to compensate. You want more money? Be the kind of person who makes more lives better, not someday. Today. Stop asking, how can I make a quick buck? Start asking, where is the pain that no one else wants to deal with? And how can I become the best in the world at solving it? When you shift your lens from get rich to become essential, everything changes. You stop seeing customers as transactions and start seeing them as relationships. You stop measuring success by dollars and start measuring it by depth. You stop copying and start creating. And ironically, beautifully, the money comes faster and stays longer. Think about the greatest entrepreneurs of our time. Steve Jobs didn't build Apple to get rich. He built it because he believed deeply that the human experience could be more elegant, intuitive, and connected. Elon Musk didn't wake up one day saying, how can I get wealthy? He asked, how do I move humanity forward? Oprah didn't say, I want to be rich. She said, I want to tell stories that heal. And because they chased purpose, because they embodied value, money followed them like a shadow. Now here's the catch. Creating value is hard. It takes time. It requires depth, empathy, and skill. It demands obsession. But that's why most people don't do it. And that's exactly why the few who do get rewarded disproportionately. And let's talk about obsession, because it matters. You will never create meaningful value if you're lukewarm about your work. You need to care so much it hurts. You need to be obsessed with doing it better, sharper, smarter. You need to feel the weight of other people's pain on your shoulders and take it personally enough to do something about it. If you're in business, ask yourself this: what am I solving? Who am I helping? How am I different? Why does it matter? And if you don't know, go get quiet until you do. Because until you're obsessed with your mission, you're just a noise in a very crowded world. Here's another thing: chasing money will make you a slave to comparison. When you want to be rich more than you want to be valuable, you'll look around constantly. You'll wonder how that person grew faster, how this one went viral, how that one raised more. You'll start copying, mimicking, diluting. And in the process, you'll lose the very thing the world was waiting for: your uniqueness. But when you chase value, you don't have time for comparison. You're too focused, too immersed in your purpose. You start innovating. You start solving in a way nobody else can. And that's when the world takes notice. The irony is, when you stop chasing money and start becoming valuable, money comes faster. And when it comes, it's anchored. You're not constantly fearing it'll disappear because you didn't get it through luck. You got it through alignment, through competence, through contribution. And contribution, not accumulation, is the true mark of a life well lived. So if you're listening to this and you feel behind, if you're wondering why it's not working yet, if you're exhausted from chasing, pause, breathe, and ask yourself, am I trying to get rich, or am I trying to become someone the world truly needs? Because if you become that person, that rare, remarkable, valuable force, money will not be able to ignore you. Money is the shadow of service. It follows value. It follows excellence. It follows depth. It follows the people brave enough to stop chasing and start creating. So today, make the shift. Don't wake up to chase. Wake up to contribute. There's a quiet dignity in a man who plants a seed, knowing he may never sit in the shade of the tree it becomes. That kind of thinking, that kind of commitment, that's legacy thinking. That's long game mentality. And it is one of the rarest, most powerful forces a human being can possess. But we live in a culture addicted to speed. Everything around us screams for instant gratification. Like clicks, overnight success stories, quick profits, fast solutions. We're being trained, not just socially, but neurologically, to seek reward with no effort, outcomes with no process, status with no substance. And that conditioning is keeping millions of people poor, not just in money, but in mindset. Poverty isn't just a number, it's a way of thinking. And the most dangerous kind of poverty is short-term thinking disguised as urgency. So let me say this: if you want wealth that lasts, that compounds, that transforms not just your life, but your family's life and your children's lives, you need to play the long game and not just play it. Live it, breathe it, commit to it so deeply that your actions today echo for decades. That begins with perspective. When you stop measuring your success in days or weeks and start measuring it in decades, everything changes. You stop obsessing over how many likes a post got today and start asking, how am I building something that still matters 10 years from now? You stop chasing viral moments and start pursuing compound impact, the kind that builds slowly, then suddenly. And here's the hard truth: the long game is lonely. Most people won't understand what you're doing. They'll question why you're working so hard now without a visible reward. They'll wonder why you're sacrificing comfort, missing parties, staying focused when it seems like nobody's watching. But that's the cost, because you're not building for now, you're building for forever. Imagine this: two men start a business. One wants to make as much money as he can in 12 months. The other is focused on becoming the best in his industry over 10 years. Who makes more in the first year? Probably the first guy. But who ends up owning the market, commanding respect, changing lives, and yes, building generational wealth? The second one, every single time. Because time rewards depth, time reveals truth, and time multiplies the actions of the one who commits relentlessly. That's what long game players understand. They understand that the real ROI isn't in the first win. It's in the compound momentum that comes from doing the right thing consistently, even when no one claps. But let's be honest, it's hard. Delayed gratification is painful, especially when the world around you is speeding up, when you're working in silence and someone else is celebrating loudly, when you're planting seeds and others are harvesting. That's when doubt creeps in. That's when you ask, is this even worth it? And the answer is yes. But only if you trust the process. The long game requires vision, the ability to see what isn't visible yet, to hold a picture in your mind so clearly that it shapes your behavior today. And vision isn't just dreaming. It's building a relationship with the future so strong that the temptations of the present lose their power. You want wealth. Think like someone who'll still be needed in 50 years. Train like someone who will carry wisdom into old age. Learn like someone whose ideas could echo beyond their lifetime. You don't just need a work ethic. You need a legacy ethic. That means taking care of your body today so you can perform in your 60s with the same fire you had in your 30s. It means developing financial intelligence so your money outlives your name. It means building businesses, systems, and skills that don't collapse when trends change because they're built on timeless principles. Let's talk practically. Every minute you waste scrolling, every hour you spend numbing yourself with entertainment, every conversation you entertain that's rooted in gossip instead of growth, it all subtracts from your future. It's like stealing from your own retirement account, your own impact account, your own legacy. Wealth is not built in noise. It's built in silence, consistency, and delay. It's not built in shiny launches. It's built in boring mornings, in showing up when it's hard, in doing what works, even when it doesn't feel exciting. Here's the kicker: the longer you play the game, the easier it gets. Because the long game is powered by compound interest, not just financially, but emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. The first year of focus might feel like a grind. The second starts to build rhythm. By the fifth, you've got skills no one can replicate, connections that run deep, a brand that speaks for itself, a life that was engineered, not stumbled upon. And here's what's beautiful: while everyone else is still trying to go viral, you're going vital. You're becoming indispensable, foundational, legacy-oriented. And that kind of power cannot be bought. It can only be built. So let me challenge you with this. Stop asking, what can I get this week? And start asking, what can I build this decade? Stop making decisions based on your feelings and start making decisions based on your future. That doesn't mean you don't enjoy life. It means you enjoy it on your terms, from a place of intention and mastery. Because when you play the long game, the rewards are bigger and they last. And if you're thinking, but I'm already behind, let me tell you this: the long game forgives late starts. You can begin today, right now, this moment, with better decisions, with better standards, with ruthless elimination of distractions, with a full body commitment to the future you're willing to earn. You are not behind. You are preparing. You are in the planting season. But only if you stop trying to harvest too early. So plant your trees, even if you don't sit under them, even if no one sees you, even if the world claps louder for someone else right now. Because one day, not today, not tomorrow, but someday, the roots you've grown will produce a life most people only dream about, not because you were lucky, but because you were loyal to your long game. That is the path. That is the power. Play it relentlessly. Pain is not the enemy. It is the entrance fee. It is the toll you pay to step into a higher version of yourself. And if you're not willing to pay that toll, you will never cross that bridge. You'll stay on the safe side of life, the familiar side, the side where comfort becomes a cage and where the absence of struggle is not peace. It's poverty in disguise. Let me tell you something we don't talk about enough. Real wealth, the kind that endures, that sustains, that multiplies, is built not just on strategy, but on emotional resilience. And emotional resilience is built through pain. There's a dangerous idea circulating in the world right now. The idea that you can have it all without sacrifice, that you can build something great without bleeding for it. That success should feel good all the time. It's a lie, a beautiful, seductive lie, but a lie nonetheless. The truth: pain is the down payment for power. Always has been, always will be. If you want a better body, you train through soreness. If you want a stronger mind, you study through fatigue. If you want deeper love, you open your heart even when it's been broken. If you want wealth, you must endure the setbacks, the failures, the ridicule, the days when no one believes in you, not even yourself, especially yourself. Most people don't fail because they lack talent or intelligence. They fail because they don't know how to suffer. The moment discomfort shows up, they fold. They mistake resistance for a red flag when it's actually a green light, proof that they're growing. I've watched people start businesses and quit the moment a customer complains. I've seen people create something beautiful, then delete it the moment someone mocks them. I've seen entrepreneurs work for 3 months and walk away because they didn't get the results they wanted. Do you know what they all had in common? A weak relationship with pain. A belief that discomfort is to be avoided instead of embraced. Here's what they didn't realize: pain is a teacher. Pain teaches patience. When your vision is clear but the results are slow, it teaches you to stay in the process, to detach from the outcome, to keep walking through the fog even when the finish line is nowhere in sight. Pain sharpens your vision. When things hurt, you begin to see clearly what matters and what doesn't. It trims the fat from your life. It reveals who's really there for you. It exposes the habits, people, and patterns that no longer serve you. Pain humbles the ego. It brings you back to earth. It forces you to ask better questions. It reminds you that no matter how much you think you know, there's always another level. Pain strips away the illusion of control and replaces it with the truth of effort. And perhaps most importantly, pain builds emotional wealth, and that's the only kind of wealth that lasts. Because here's what most people don't understand: if you haven't developed internal strength, external success will break you. The pressure will crush you. The attention will distort you. The money will amplify your worst traits. But when you've been through pain, when you've trained in hardship, when you've sat in the silence of your own struggle, you build an inner fortitude that the no market downturn, no criticism, no failure can shake. Think of pain as your gym. Every setback is a rep. Every heartbreak is a sprint. Every disappointment is a squat. And every time you face it, instead of running from it, you grow. You adapt. You become something stronger than your circumstances. Pain isn't there to destroy you. It's there to expose you and rebuild you. Let me tell you a story. A young man once told me he wanted to be a millionaire by 25. I asked him why. He said he was tired of being broke, tired of being embarrassed, tired of living with his parents. I said, that's not a reason. That's a reaction. He wanted to escape pain, not build through it. So I asked him a better question. Are you willing to suffer for this? Not for a week, not for a year, but for as long as it takes. He didn't answer. Because the truth is, most people don't want to build wealth. They want to avoid pain. And wealth just looks like a way out. But if you haven't mastered pain, you won't last long on the road to success. The moment it gets hard, you'll rationalize quitting. You'll call it alignment, or intuition, or balance, when really it's just avoidance. But the ones who make it, they develop a working relationship with pain. They don't just tolerate it, they use it. They let it become fuel. They stop asking, why me? And start asking, what is this trying to teach me? Pain becomes their coach, not their enemy. You see this in athletes. You see this in Navy SEALs. You see this in single mothers, in immigrants, in underdogs, in survivors. They don't wish for easier paths. They build stronger backs. And that strength, it translates into decisions, into actions, into wealth that isn't just built but earned. The kind that can't be taken because it wasn't given, it was forged. So how do you train in pain? You stop running. When something hurts, sit with it. Ask what it's showing you. When failure comes, study it. When betrayal hits, don't become bitter, become wiser. When rejection stings, use it as a mirror. Pain only becomes poison when you suppress it. But when you face it, it becomes medicine. You put yourself in controlled suffering. You wake up early when you don't have to. You do the hard work when no one's watching. You take the cold shower. You say no to the distraction. You practice discipline not because you hate yourself, but because you respect your future. Every moment you train in pain, you build equity, emotional equity, and that emotional equity becomes your foundation. The kind that wealth stands on, the kind that doesn't crumble when pressure hits. So here's my challenge to you: stop avoiding pain. Start welcoming it. Let it stretch you. Let it shape you. Let it teach you how to carry yourself when things go dark. Because in the darkness, you learn to generate your own light. You want to be rich? Learn how to suffer with purpose. You want to be powerful? Let pain refine your character. You want to build something that lasts? Start with the hard things, the ones no one applauds. Because when you train in pain, you become anti-fragile. And anti-fragile people don't just survive storms. They thrive in them. Become someone who trains in pain, and you'll become a warrior of wealth. We live in an era of noise. Everyone is talking, announcing, posting, broadcasting their intentions like confetti in the wind. Social media has made it almost normal to expose your every move before you've even made it. I'm launching this. I'm starting that. Big things coming. It's a culture of declaration, not execution. And it's costing people their potential. Let me tell you the truth. Real builders don't talk. They build. Real winners don't perform. They deliver. And real wealth isn't announced. It's earned silently in the background through relentless discipline and focused work. You want to build wealth. Then start closing your mouth. The people who are constantly talking about what they're going to do often haven't done it. And deep down, they're trying to convince themselves more than they're trying to convince anyone else. They're seeking external validation because they haven't yet built internal conviction. But those who have become the thing, who have lived the pain, survived the process, fought the war, don't need to say anything. Their presence speaks. Their discipline speaks. Their results speak louder than any caption, quote, or announcement ever could. Silence is misunderstood. It's not weakness. It's not passivity. It's a weapon. A strategic, powerful weapon that filters distractions and magnifies focus. The silent are not inactive. They are intentional. They know that energy leaks through words, and that every moment spent talking is a moment not spent building. Let's go deeper. When you speak about your goals too much, especially before you've done the work, you trick your brain into believing you've already accomplished something. It's a dopamine trap. You get the feeling of progress without the reality of it. It's like announcing you're going to run a marathon, getting a round of applause, and then sitting back down on the couch. In neuroscience, we call this premature reward. The brain loves it, but it's fatal to long-term discipline. Talking gives you a sense of completion before you've earned it. And when you do it enough, you'll start chasing the talking more than the doing. You'll become a performer of productivity instead of a practitioner of it. Now let's flip it. The quiet ones, they're in the shadows. Grinding, studying, iterating, failing privately, learning, adapting. They're not selling the vision. They're building the foundation. And when the time is right, when the product is bulletproof, when the system is tested, when the skill is undeniable, then they emerge. But by that point, they don't need to announce anything because their results do the talking. Look around. Some of the wealthiest, most powerful people in the world are the ones you hear the least from, not because they don't have anything to say, but because they've learned that focus is more valuable than attention. They don't need applause. They need execution. And that's what sets them apart. You don't need to broadcast your intentions to make them real. In fact, the more sacred your goals are, the more you should protect them in silence. Think of it like a fire. When you're just getting it started, it's fragile. A gust of wind can kill it. Too much exposure and it won't survive. But if you protect it, feed it, shield it, eventually it becomes a blaze no one can ignore. That's your dream. That's your purpose. That's your wealth building mission. Stop exposing it too early. Stop announcing it before it's ready. Let it grow in silence. Let it become so powerful, so undeniable, so ferociously well built that it forces the world to take notice. Not because you said something, but because you became something. Silence also protects you from opinions, because every time you share your plans, you open the door for someone else's fears, doubts, projections, and criticisms to infect your mind. And if you're not solid yet, if your mindset is still vulnerable, those outside voices will derail you. They'll plant seeds of hesitation that grow into forests of failure. But when you build quietly, you shield yourself. You give yourself room to fail privately, to experiment, to adjust, to grow without the pressure of an audience. That kind of space is where real excellence is born. Think about it, the most important parts of any process happen in silence. Seeds break open in the dark soil. Muscles grow in the stillness of sleep. Babies form in the unseen safety of the womb. Silence isn't empty, it's sacred. And when you learn to respect it, you begin to understand its power. This is not about hiding. It's about harnessing the full weight of your energy and pouring it into execution, not explanation. Into craft, not commentary. Let me say this clearly, you don't need more motivation. You need more action. You don't need more eyes on you. You need more hours in solitude. You don't need more praise. You need more practice. Because at the end of the day, no one will remember what you said you were going to do. They'll remember what you actually built. The product, the transformation, the results, that's your legacy, not your words, but your work. So how do you start using silence as a weapon? First, go dark. Stop posting. Stop explaining. Stop oversharing your plans with people who haven't earned the right to hear them. Let your energy retreat inward. Second, get brutally focused. Use the time you would have spent talking to refine your process, learn your craft, build your thing. Every hour spent in quiet, uninterrupted work is an investment that will pay compound dividends. Third, track execution, not intention. Write down what you did, not what you meant to do. Your journal should reflect actions, not aspirations. Because motion beats emotion. Every single time. And finally, fall in love with invisibility, with the grind that no one sees, with the moments when no one is clapping. That's where your power is built. That's where greatness is born. You are not behind. You are just underground, quiet, growing, dangerous. And when the time comes to rise, you won't need to announce it. We've been sold a shallow version of confidence, one built on volume instead of value. We're told to stand tall, speak loudly, post daily affirmations, and repeat mantras in the mirror like magic spells. We're taught that if we say it enough, it becomes true. But here's the truth no one wants to say out loud: confidence is not noise. It's proof. You don't build confidence by screaming you're the best. You build it by becoming undeniable. You build it in the dark, in the reps, in the silence when no one claps, but you show up anyway. Confidence doesn't start in your voice. It starts in your work. Let's be clear, hype is hollow. It's air. It's short-term applause with no foundation. But competence, that's structure. That's substance. That's the kind of strength that doesn't need to be advertised because it shows up in results. A confident person doesn't need to say, "I'm great." Their presence does. Their preparation does. Their execution does. When you walk into a room with years of skill in your hands and countless hours of craft behind your eyes, you don't need to convince anyone. They feel it. Real confidence comes from competence, from being exceptional at something that matters. You want confidence in business. Learn more than your competitors. Study your customers like no one else. Build a product that people can't ignore. You want confidence in your body? Eat with discipline. Train with consistency. Master your physiology. You want confidence in your voice? Read more. Think deeper. Write clearer. Express truth without fear because you've done the work to understand it. You don't get confidence from visualization. You get it from verification, from proving to yourself that you can show up and execute over and over again, even when it's hard, even when no one's watching, even when no one believes. That's what most people miss. They think confidence is a personality trait. It's not. It's a byproduct. And the more you chase external validation instead of internal competence, the more fragile your confidence becomes. Look around. The loudest people in the room are often the least certain. The ones who have to constantly tell you who they are haven't become it yet. Because when you are something, when it's been forged in discipline and sweat, you don't need to say it. You don't need to scream you're a lion when you've already learned to hunt. Let me tell you a story. A young man once walked into a boardroom to pitch his startup. He had charm, he had enthusiasm, he had a flashy deck. But when the questions came, he crumbled. Because charm can't answer detailed questions. Flash doesn't cover gaps in understanding. Hype collapsed under the weight of scrutiny. Now contrast that with another founder I know. Quiet, measured, no grand promises. Just data, vision, and years of deep work. When he spoke, the room leaned in. Not because he was loud, but because he was sharp. He wasn't trying to convince. He was just presenting truths he'd earned through blood and time. And when the meeting ended, investors wrote checks without hesitation. Why? Because competence is magnetic. It moves people. It makes them trust you. It makes them follow you. Not because you asked, but because they know you've got it. That's what real confidence feels like. Calm, certain, solid. It doesn't need to be decorated. It's built on mastery. Now here's the hard part. Building competence takes time. It's unglamorous. It's lonely. It's filled with mistakes, revisions, and long nights. It doesn't post well on Instagram. It doesn't get quick likes. But it's the only path to sustainable power. You want to be confident. Start by asking, what do I need to become world class at? Then go do the work every day until no one can question it. Train when it's boring. Study when others are relaxing. Build when it's hard. Sacrifice distraction. Commit to depth. Learn what others avoid. Refuse shortcuts. And outgrow the need for applause. Because when you become competent, truly competent, you won't need anyone to tell you you're good. You'll know. Not from ego, but from evidence. And that knowing is the quiet power that lives inside the most successful people on earth. You want to become money. Then become someone who delivers 10x the value. Not once. Not when it's convenient. Always. Build such depth in your work that people would be foolish to overlook you. Make your results so sharp, so exact, so effective that doors open because they have to. Don't chase hype. Don't build a brand that's louder than your product. Build so much value that your brand is simply the reflection of your excellence. When someone asks you what you do, don't give them a pitch. Give them a demonstration. Show them the clarity you've earned, the knowledge you've refined, the precision that only obsession can produce. Study harder. Practice longer. Outlearn everyone in your lane. You don't need to be the loudest. You need to be the best. Because the world doesn't pay people for potential. It pays for performance. And performance comes from preparation, from craft, from caring about the details no one else notices, from bleeding into your work long enough that it becomes undeniable. There's something sacred about that kind of effort. It changes who you are. Not just externally, but internally. You become calmer, more grounded, less reactive, because you know at your core that you can handle it, whatever it is. You've trained for it. You've earned the right to stand tall without shouting. So here's your challenge: trade hype for humility, trade declarations for discipline, trade manifesting for mastery. Let others talk, you build. Let others pose, you execute. Let others seek fame, you seek depth. Because when you're truly great, the world will find you, not because you said so, but because you became so. There's a hard truth no one wants to hear, but it will set you free if you let it burn through your excuses. The distance between where you are and where you want to be isn't talent. It isn't intelligence. It isn't even passion. It's discipline. Pure, quiet, consistent discipline. It's the most boring word in the world. It doesn't get applause. It doesn't look impressive on social media. You can't package it in a trending video, but it's the foundation for everything that is. Discipline is the bridge, and if you don't walk it, you'll stay stuck in cycles of emotional poverty. Cycles where your future keeps slipping through your fingers, not because you didn't want it badly enough, but because you didn't do what it required. Everyone wants to be wealthy. Everyone wants to be respected. Everyone wants to change their life, to build a legacy, to become someone of power and presence. But most people stop the moment the emotion fades. They stop when it gets hard. They stop when it's inconvenient. That's not desire, that's delusion. Discipline is the test. It's the test of whether you mean what you say. Because discipline isn't about motivation. Motivation is a mood. It comes and goes like the weather. Discipline is different. It's a system, a standard, a decision you made before your feelings tried to vote on it. The person who shows up every day, especially on the days they don't want to, is the person who wins. Period. I've seen it over and over again. Talented people fade because they never mastered consistency. Smart people quit because they never embraced monotony. Passionate people burn out because they never built a routine that could carry them when the fire went dim. But the disciplined, they last, they endure. And eventually, they rise. Because discipline compounds. It's the slowest mover in the room, but it's also the most lethal. 1 hour of focused effort today won't change your life, but 1 hour of focused effort every day, without exception, for 5 years. That turns you into something the world cannot ignore. Discipline is what makes you predictable to yourself. And that's where true power begins. You want to become money. You want to become wealth in human form. Then you must become reliable to yourself. That means when it's time to rise, you rise. When it's time to study, you study. When it's time to work, you work. When it's time to disconnect, you shut the world out and dive in. There are no more negotiations. No more, I don't feel like it. No more, I'm tired. No more, maybe tomorrow. Discipline simply kills the debate. It gives you the edge that 99% of people will never have because they keep waiting to feel ready. Listen carefully. Wealth doesn't come to the emotional. It comes to the disciplined. The market doesn't reward your feelings. It rewards your output. The universe doesn't move for your intentions. It moves for your actions. The world doesn't bow to your dreams. It bows to your habits. And discipline is the root of every life-altering habit you'll ever build. It's the choice to wake up at 5 a.m. when your body says stay in bed. It's the decision to write that extra page when your mind says, good enough. It's the refusal to check your phone, to scroll, to numb, to distract, because your future demands focus. It's the ability to delay pleasure, delay comfort, delay validation, all for a reward that no one else sees but you. That's why most people can't do it, because discipline is lonely. It's invisible. It's quiet. No one claps when you do it. No one celebrates your 1,000th repetition. But that's where the wealth is. It's hidden in the unseen, in the grind that no one films. There's a phrase I live by. What you repeat becomes who you are. And if what you repeat every day is weakness, excuses, distractions, inconsistencies, you are building poverty, even if it looks productive. But if what you repeat is strength, focus, follow through, execution, you are building wealth, even if no one notices yet. Because wealth isn't just financial, it's structural. It's in your brain, it's in your body, it's in your calendar, it's in your standards, it's in the architecture of your life. And discipline is the chief architect. People love to say, I'll be disciplined when I have a reason. But that's backwards. Discipline gives you a reason. Discipline builds the momentum that reveals the purpose. You don't wait for clarity. You create clarity by moving. It doesn't matter if you don't know exactly where you're going. What matters is that you're moving forward relentlessly with purpose. Because every day you show up, the path gets clearer. The mind gets sharper. The soul gets stronger. And here's the wild part. Discipline eventually creates freedom. The very thing most people are chasing through comfort, they can only find through commitment. When you're disciplined with your time, you earn more of it. When you're disciplined with your money, you multiply it. When you're disciplined with your body, you protect your energy. When you're disciplined with your words, you build trust. Freedom is not the absence of structure. It's the mastery of it. So if you want freedom, stop chasing ease. Chase excellence. And let discipline be the vehicle. The future you dream about, the wealth, the respect, the ownership of your life. It's not reserved for the chosen. It's reserved for the consistent. The ones who don't miss. The ones who train when it's dark. The ones who do the work when no one's cheering. The ones who became so aligned with their highest self that excuses became foreign. You don't need more talent. You don't need more genius. You need more discipline. More boring mornings. More unsexy repetitions. And more unseen effort. And more days where you rise not because you feel like it, but because it's who you are now. Discipline is not a hack. It's not a life hack. It's not a motivational quote. It's the difference. It's the bridge between your current poverty and your future wealth. And if you don't cross it, you'll keep circling the same life, wondering why others are rising while you remain stuck. So build your bridge, one brick at a time, one rep at a time, one choice at a time. And one day, sooner than you think, you'll look back and realize the man who started walking in pain, in silence, in doubt was not the man who finished. He was someone entirely new, forged by fire, carved by consistency, shaped by sacrifice. This is the final truth. There is no map. There is no X that marks the spot. There is no treasure buried out there, just waiting for you to trip over it. Wealth is not some lucky coincidence or some secret code handed to a chosen few. It is not waiting to be discovered. It is waiting to be built. And not from some distant place. Not from a job or a handout or a market surge or a connection. You build wealth from the only place that has always held the power within you. But that's the truth most people run from. Because if wealth lives inside you, then so does the responsibility for creating it. And responsibility is heavy. It's easier to believe the lie that wealth is external, that it's something you find, something someone else gives you, something you hope for. But you don't find wealth. You forge it. Through grit, through sweat, through silence, through your pain, through your patterns, through a relentless, obsessed pursuit of your own potential, not for applause, but for truth. The truth is, money is not outside of you. It is waiting inside you, buried beneath years of excuses, self-sabotage, fear, approval-seeking, distraction, addiction to comfort, and this warped belief that someone else is supposed to give it to you. And the longer you keep looking out there, for shortcuts, for saviors, for secrets, the longer you'll stay stuck in scarcity. Not just financial scarcity, but mental, emotional, spiritual scarcity. Because true wealth isn't measured in dollars first. It's measured in depth, in character, in capacity. And that begins inside. Think about it. How many people win the lottery and lose it all? How many people inherit fortunes and spend it into oblivion? How many influencers, overnight stars, quick success stories rise fast and burn even faster? Because they didn't become the system. They found the treasure, but they never built the foundation. They had the fruit, but not the roots. And when pressure hit, they collapsed. Because the wealth was outside in, not inside out. That's why the deepest, most lasting, most generational wealth comes not from finding, but from becoming. You don't look for money. You become the system that produces it, not just once, but over and over and over again, on demand, in any industry, in any economy, in any season. Because it's no longer about the environment, it's about your identity. And identity is everything. If you see yourself as someone who barely survives, you'll keep making decisions that reflect that identity. You'll undercharge. You'll play small. You'll second guess your value. You'll waste time, chase distractions, and self-sabotage the moment success gets close. Because your inner self can't hold it yet. But if you become someone who produces wealth, Someone who solves problems, creates value, builds systems, serves deeply, and grows relentlessly. Then wealth becomes the inevitable byproduct of your identity. The process begins when you stop outsourcing your power. No more blaming the economy. No more waiting for someone to rescue you. No more scrolling for inspiration while ignoring execution. No more hoping your life changes when you haven't changed yet. You've got to dig. You've got to go into the dark, uncomfortable parts of your life and start pulling back the layers. Start asking, what excuses do I keep making? What habits are keeping me broke? What truths have I been avoiding? What emotional wounds are bleeding into my decisions? Because that's where the gold is. Not in the bank. Not in the next opportunity. Not in some guru's course. It's in the depth of your own transformation. When you start to build from the inside, your discipline sharpens, your clarity increases, your confidence becomes real, not because someone told you it should, but because you earned it from the inside out. You don't wait to feel like a millionaire. You become the kind of person who can build $1 million system and then do it again and again and again. Not because you're chasing the money, but because you've become the kind of person who produces at that level. It's who you are now. Let me be real with you. No amount of motivation can substitute for transformation. If you're still lying to yourself, if you're still addicted to comfort, if you're still holding on to victimhood, if you're still pointing fingers, then nothing will change. Not sustainably. But when you look in the mirror and say, I'm the problem, and I'm also the solution, everything shifts. You stop waiting. You start working. You stop seeking. You start becoming. And from that moment on, you realize the treasure was never buried out there. It was always buried in you, in your decisions, in your discipline, in your discomfort, in your honesty, in your hunger. So start digging. Get quiet. Get clear. Go to war with your mediocrity. Replace comfort with conviction. Replace excuses with standards. Replace validation with value creation. Build the habits. Build the identity. Build the capacity. And soon, wealth won't be something you hope for. It will be something you expect. Not from entitlement, but from effort. You don't need luck. You don't need permission. You don't need someone to discover you. You need to create yourself. Because you don't find wealth